A national championship contender has emerged in Hawaii, how Auburn crushed the competition in Maui, and how Johni Broome has made himself a frontrunner for Player of the Year. Plus, Oklahoma shocks everyone in the Bahamas. The Alabama Crimson Tide are playing in the championship in the Players Era Festival. Florida dominates Disney World. And do we need to start worrying about the Arkansas Razorbacks? We're talking all the Feast Week action here in this recap bonus rebound episode of the Hoops Southbound Show. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Rebound. Like I said last time we did this, normally the Rebound is part of the normal show, but there is so much to cover this week on what happened in Feast Week that we need to do an extra Rebound episode because we've got a lot more to talk about on the regular show that's not just game results. So let's get started on what happened here in Feast Week because the SEC had a heck of a showing this week, and we still have more games to go in this incredible week of basketball. First off, let's start with what happened in Hawaii. The Auburn Tigers won it all in the Lahaina Civic Center in the Maui Invitational. And what a performance it was in a completely chaotic field of games. Maui, number one, was just complete chaos. You had UConn lose back-to-back games, back-to-back-to-back games, actually going 0-3, which is something that doesn't happen under Dan Hurley. Second, every team that was there put on a heck of a show and showed us every level of elite basketball that we can see here at the start of the year. And third, Auburn was right there as one of the best teams from start to finish in this tournament. And they really, really showed us why they're one of the best teams in the country right now. Personally, I think Auburn won this tournament doing the little things. That's my opinion. The things in the margins, offensive rebounds, hustle plays, making your free throws, being unselfish. They didn't just go out and win it all on talent. For 120 minutes, Auburn filled in those gaps with those details that separate good teams from great teams. And they showed themselves to be a great team right now here early in the season. They played excellent ball. And in the end, it doesn't hurt to have a guy like Johni Broome. Johni Broome was absolutely incredible this entire tournament. And game in and game out, he made himself a factor in every outcome. He put up a double-double every night. He shot 40% or better in every game from three. He only missed one free throw a night. He was 50% or better from the field in every game, and he did that while hitting 6 total three-point field goals made. And he played over 30 minutes in each game. You don't see a ton of big men doing that in college basketball. You're used to seeing an average of like 25 minutes. He showed up, he showed out every night, and he has established himself right now as a leading candidate in the Player of the Year race. He didn't just put up those numbers. He did that against some of the best teams in the country. That's a statement right there. And it was big. And I love the quote just even about the Player of the Year race right now from Broome when he was talking on this topic. Player of the Year doesn't really matter to me. I care about winning. I love that message. I love everything about it. I love hearing it at any level of basketball, and I love hearing it at a level this high, which is just a step below the NBA. That's such an incredible job. Let's go through some of these games on this run. Iowa State, it was an 18-point comeback for Auburn. It's the largest comeback in a top 5 basketball game since 2012. Auburn didn't lead in this game until the final 4 minutes of it. Auburn puts up 50 points in the second half, and Johni Broome, of course, was great. A Johni Broome tip in with just 1.6 seconds left on the clock gets the job done. Auburn gets the win. What allowed Auburn to get back in this game and win it? Their backcourt stars woke up. Chad Baker-Mazara, Denver Jones, Miles Kelly had 7 points combined at halftime. And then you go out into the second half. Chaz Baker-Mazara goes for 16. Denver Jones goes for 10. Kelly goes for 9 in the second half. And then Todd Pettiford also had some really good minutes to keep this team in the game when things just hadn't started rolling yet. Excellent performance all around for the backcourt. Let's go to game 2. North Carolina. Effort points, effort points, effort points, man. One in the things like offensive rebounds, big man running the length of the floor. Johni Broome played like a machine, had a double-double in the first half. Chad Baker-Mazara, Miles Kelly both played solid and shot highly efficient. Their plus minus were into the teens for this game. This is a game that I think Auburn is a better team than North Carolina, but it was also a possible matchup problem for them. And Auburn did the little things right for 40 straight minutes. I think if you play that game 10 more times, you split this series. So the little things, the effort plays, that's what tips the scales. And that's just doing your job and executing the game plan. To me, even in these top five wins, even with these top five wins that Auburn's having, this was Auburn's best win of the season so far because it was a team that they didn't necessarily match up well with, and they still won the game and thoroughly dominated it. It won't show up in the net. It won't show up in your resume as this being your best win because you already have better wins right now, according to what KenPom has to say. And if KenPom looks like the net, yada, yada, yada. But this was a damn good basketball game and a damn good performance. Then let's go to the championship game. It wasn't even close, man. It wasn't even close. Johni Broome was incredible again with another double-double, and this time he also had along with it 6 assists and 4 blocks. Auburn was clearly the better team against Memphis. Dominant performance and one that made Auburn look 100% like a national championship title contender this season. Auburn beats Memphis 90-76. At halftime, I thought they were going to win by more. It really looked like this thing was going to turn into an absolute blowout. Let's face it, Auburn are national title contenders if they continue to play at this level. If Matt Norlander would like to apologize to Auburn fans for not thinking that they're a top 25 team at the beginning of the year, I think everyone in the Plains would appreciate hearing that. Guys, we're going to talk more on Auburn and if they are a very legit national title contender. I think so. That's why we had that conversation at the beginning of the season where it's like, this definitely looks like a second weekend team with a high ceiling. When we did the previews back in September, October, whenever we did the Auburn preview, we're going to talk about it more and what this result in Maui really means here for the Tigers. It was an excellent performance, but we're going to talk about it a lot more in the show on Sunday. Away from the MTEs on Thanksgiving, Arkansas faced Illinois. Arkansas falls, however, to Illinois 90-77. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Arkansas played poorly. This was their worst basketball game thus far this season. Plain and simple, they got beat. That's the short version of the story. The larger story is that Illinois beat Arkansas in the first 5 minutes of this game and never let off the gas. They came out hot, they stayed hot, and it took Arkansas the entirety of the first half to even start finding themselves. Arkansas also played some poor perimeter defense, allowing 15 threes in this game, and they didn't play well against ball screens or the pick and roll. It was just a very bad defensive game for Arkansas, which is something we just haven't seen much from them so far this season. They're still right now sitting in the top 20 in defense on KenPom, but this was a top 10 defensive team coming into this game. So yeah, not the performance we were necessarily expecting, but in the past, we've seen John Calipari kind of struggle against ball screen stuff. And then additionally, with Jonas Adu and some other guys out, Big Z has not played well against ball screens right now. But let's kind of look at this a little bit closer because what's ironic is in this game, we saw Arkansas play what it felt like was the floor to them, or what's going to be our guest floor right now. That's where they are, right at the bottom. But in this game, we could clearly see where the ceiling was too, and it's still extremely high. It's right there in the stat sheet. Look at what Arkansas left on the floor. Arkansas left 11 points at the free throw line. Arkansas shot 3.5 3-point field goals made under their season average. They shot nearly 10% below their season average from three. Arkansas had their worst defensive performance thus far this season. They dropped 11 spots on KenPom after one game. In the first half, Arkansas's offense only went for 34 points, and they gave up 49. The defense was allowing under 60 a game. And mind you, it just hadn't been just soft competition. That was also against teams, mid-majors, who look like they're going to have a chance at winning a conference title, and teams like Baylor in that mix as well. Boogie Flan scored under 10 points. His season average, he didn't hit a three. He came into this game averaging 40% from deep. He came into this game averaging 5.5 assists a game. He had one. But then in the second half, Arkansas outscored Illinois. And they did that with Jonas Adu and Janelle Davis combining for only 5 points in this game. We're going to get to Jonas Adu a little bit more in this. But yeah, not anything big from guys that we've been circling is like these guys have to be the guys. No real contribution. They still outscore Illinois in the second half. They put up 77 points and still were right there. They got 1.33 points per shot. That's a really good number right there on the PPS. And again, they're doing that without contribution from Adu and Davis, who should be the leaders on this team. It's about putting all this together for Arkansas and putting a complete performance together. Otherwise, you're going to remain at this floor and end up like 7th to like 10th, 11th in the SEC this year. But if you can play to the level of defense you're capable of, get Jonas Adu involved and play at the level he's capable of, get Janelle Davis more involved in the offensive game plan, then you do those little things right, make your free throws, you start winning games. You start winning the glass. You start winning games. You got a really good team at that point. It's just got to get there. It's about getting this team together at this point. And here was what I was talking about with Jonas Adu. Encouraging point for Arkansas out of this game. Jonas Adu came in for some emergency minutes in this game, and in those minutes, it was obvious your best number 5 option is Jonas Adu. And in those minutes, he just looked like a guy who hasn't played basketball, but provided good minutes for what he played. Adu has been getting close to returning from our understanding, but he came in, played a few solid minutes here in this game, and he actually improved Arkansas defensively, got a few rebounds, and put up a few points. He looks like he could be coming back soon for Arkansas, and that would really, really help this team because they need him right now at that number 5 spot. Now, guys, there's a larger conversation that can be had about Arkansas, but I don't think we're there yet. I'm not really a hot take guy. I don't really do that. I like numbers. I like stats. I like strategy. I like theory. There's some good win opportunities ahead for Arkansas here right now in the non-conference. And depending on how those things go, that'll be the time and place to have that conversation. But I'm a little less reactive to losses in Q1 games as opposed to losses that are bad losses that go into the quad 3, quad 4 area. I think those of you who have watched this show and have been around for a minute since we got started know I have opinions on John Calipari. To me, there's a very clear reason I think why John Calipari has not been successful the last few seasons over the last 5 years at Kentucky. I said that reason at the beginning of last year during our Kentucky preview. Kentucky fans didn't like my opinion. I said it again after the Oakland loss. Kentucky fans didn't like my opinion. I said it when Arkansas hired John Calipari. Arkansas fans didn't like my opinion at that time. And the ironic thing is of course that Mark Pope sees the same thing I saw, and it's part of why Kentucky looks like they're a second weekend team right now, in my opinion. But we're not ready to have that conversation with Arkansas yet. We're yet to still see a fully healthy Arkansas team, and it's November, man. Like, you got to give a little bit of breathing room here for a first-year coach at a new job, in my opinion, as well. Now, we'll have that conversation when the time is right, and depending on how these next couple of games go here in the first couple of weeks of December, that conversation might be getting there, but we're not quite there yet. We're going to be looking at this team. They still got a key piece out for them. They got one guy who's on the floor right now who's not getting involved at a level you want him to get involved to, and he might still be dealing with some injury issues as well, from our understanding. I'd like to see a little bit more before I go, well, you know how some people in the media are about John Calipari. I'm not ready to start doing that yet. I want to see a little bit more on what the product is going forward, and I want to see a fully healthy Arkansas team before I pass just huge judgments here. Let's go on because there's still another big tournament going on right now. Texas A&M and Alabama have been battling out for a jackpot in Las Vegas in the Players Era Festival, and tonight Alabama is going to be playing the championship game against Dana Altman and the Oregon Ducks. I've Loved Mark Sears' performance in this tournament, but another player who needs some love for the effort that he's been given thus far is Mohamed Diabate. Let's go into the game so far in Houston. Game one was a battle of big time programs and the absolute headliner for the Players Era Festival. A game you're just ready to watch with tons of excitement, and boy, did we get the world's biggest ref show, man. The whistle was blowing for epic fouls like blinking too fast and, straight up breathing wrong. But seriously, the officiating was some of the worst I've seen in a long time. I mean, that was a poorly called basketball game, and it really ruined the fan experience in this whole thing. But Mark Sears was impressive. He had 24 points. Mohamed Diabate really impacted this game any way that he could. And then Aiden Holloway followed up a good game against Illinois there with an even better game against Houston. This game was back and forth, went into overtime, but Alabama made their shots in OT. And simply put, Houston didn't. Alabama played the best defense they could under the circumstances at the end of that game and ended up getting a big resume point and win. Their first real big one of the season. Illinois was a good one. It's starting to look better, but Houston definitely going to be a big win as they look to be a front runner in the Big 12. End of the day, this is a significant win and one that's going to be big for the resume for Alabama. Let's go to game two where they faced Rutgers. And we told you about this Rutgers team. It's got some talent, man. This is not the Rutgers team that we've come to think about over the last couple of years. They get some really talented guys on this team. But for this game, both teams came out looking a little tired from the night before. Alabama had an overtime game. Rutgers had the late game after that Alabama-Houston game that went into overtime. And then while this game was going on, scoring just went wild. Alabama ends up beating Rutgers 95-90. Sears followed up a 24-point performance with another 24-point performance. And then Mohamed Diabate also had a solid game, this time just one rebound short of a double-double. Then Jaron Stevenson and Darian Reed also had a really good game. Some of the younger guys there on Alabama's roster. Collectively, here's the thing that made a huge difference. Alabama shot better from three against Rutgers than what Rutgers was having from deep. Huge difference in this one. Tiber +8 from three-point field goals made. Rutgers getting hit from deep at all. Just 2 threes in this game for Rutgers altogether. Rutgers gave Alabama a fight, though, in that first half. But the Tide got out, and they started rolling in the second. You could tell from this game, if you haven't been paying attention to Rutgers basketball at all, they're a really good team. Didn't play their best basketball on Wednesday, but Tide get the win, and that should age well on your resume as time moves forward. Now we get to the championship game. Alabama beats Oregon. It's going to be another great result, and that's another one that's going to help that NCAA tournament resume and that hunt for a top 16, maybe top 8 is maybe where Alabama's kind of trending right now. Alabama is performing near the level we expected them to coming into the year right now. But you can also tell that they still have some better basketball that can be played as well. This team has not reached its ceiling by any means. Ceiling's very high for this team, and if they turn it up on defense, if they get a little bit more consistent from three-point shooting, very dangerous team to play against. There's talent. There's guys who know how to play offense on this team. Let's see what happens in this game against Oregon and see if we start seeing the Tide that we think the Tide can be this year against this Oregon team. Huge championship opportunity. And as we kind of talked about, teams that win their MTEs, normally that's a telltale sign of a team that's got a chance to win a national championship as well. Both teams from the state of Alabama playing really, really darn good ball right now. Can't wait for that championship game there against Oregon. That's going to be a tough one for the Tide. We talked about Oregon a little bit. Big man's going to be an issue for Oregon. Biddle's good. Hopefully Clifton Moore can stay out of some foul trouble, and Grant Nelson can also cover down on that one as well. See how that plays out. Oklahoma picked up what was probably the biggest shock of Feast Week. The Sooners came in and won the battle for Atlantis. This is a shocking result unless you're a Sooners fan where I knew my guys could do it the entire time. But for real, this team picked up and finished this team was picked to finish toward the bottom of the SEC, and they came out. They beat Providence, which is likely to turn into a quad 2 win. Arizona, which is likely to be a quad 1 win, and then Louisville, which may turn into a quad 1 or quad 2, depending on how things go for Pat Kelsey in his first season there at Louisville. It was different guys from different nights for Oklahoma, man. Against the Providence Friars, Elvis led the way. And Fears had a really good game, too. Against Arizona, it was Fears and Moore. In the championship game, it was Moore and Taylor with big nights. Those are some seriously good wins Oklahoma put together, and that puts them right in that NCAA tournament conversation, which is great for Porter Moser and the Sooners this season because that was the goal. That was 100% the goal. Porter Moser has not made the NCAA tournament yet with the Oklahoma Sooners, and that was the thing everyone was talking about is going to be the issue when it comes to the time of the year when coaching changes are made. Everybody likes Porter Moser. He's a good basketball coach, but he's got to get to the tournament. He collected three really good wins this weekend there in the battle for Atlantis. Really made their case. Aside from Auburn and Maui, this might be the most impressive result of the week, and it's a game changer for how we're going to think about the SEC and Oklahoma at this moment right now. Really good performance by Oklahoma in this tournament. Now, one tournament that was not a shocker, pun intended, we all kind of expected Florida to win it all in the ESPN Events Invitational. What I don't think we anticipated was the absolute butt kicking that Florida issued to Wichita State in the championship game. Wichita State is still trying to figure out what happened to them in that game because, really, no exaggeration, it looked like the Gators were going to win this game by 50. Mercy was displayed by Todd Golden and when he put in the backups. Here's just some of the numbers from this thing. Alex Condon had 17 points. Janielu had 14. Walter Clayton had 19. 14 Gators got on the court in this game. I won't bore you with the rest of the stats, but the offense was good and the defense was excellent. Gators only allowed 18 points in the first half. And Florida gets to put on the Mickey Mouse ears there in Disney World as they win the ESPN Events Invitational. Also beat Wake Forest there in game one. But Gators end up beating the Shockers 88-51. And yeah, it could have been worse. Other results in Feast Week we got in thus far. Mississippi State fell tonight to Butler in the Arizona tip-off. State was dominant in the first game against UNLV and looked 100% like the team to beat in this tournament. But tonight they came out a little short against Butler. Butler was a little bit more effective from three. State had good nights, though, from Josh Hubbard and Riley Kugel. Just unfortunately, not a lot coming out of the bench tonight for Mississippi State. It's still not a bad result in what I thought would be one of the most balanced MTEs this week. And honestly, you shoot a little bit better. Mississippi State still may have been the team to win this championship game here. Mississippi State's going to be fine going forward. It's not a bad result at all, and I think that UNLV win should age into a decent quad 2 victory. Ole Miss also had a really strong showing in the Rady's Children Invitational, coming in second. That's where we anticipated them on finishing. They played well against BYU, but fell behind in that first half and couldn't come back against Purdue. Miles Colvin rebounded Braden Smith's missed fadeaway jumper and scored with a half a second left to give Purdue the win, 80-78. Ole Miss had this thing tied up with just a little bit left. Wild finish. But I think this tournament showed that Ole Miss is going to be a hard team to deal with this season. They improved from last year, and they showed it in this tournament against what is a BYU team that's going to have a chance to make this tournament this year with a first-year coach there and what looks to be a pretty darn good roster, and then a team that's picked to be toward the top of the Big Ten. Almost came back and beat them there in the second half. Played excellent in that second half. Just came up a little short and just couldn't complete the comeback there. Then finally, South Carolina finished exactly where we thought in the way that it would go down in Fort Myers. We said there was no reason South Carolina should finish worse than third, and it's going to be very difficult for them to finish higher than third. And they finished third. Lost game one to Xavier, and a good effort that came up a little short, and then beat a Virginia Tech team that they are just simply better than. Absolutely. South Carolina is looking for that good win to kind of counterbalance that North Florida game, but a win on a neutral site against a top 150 team is still a decent result here. Still got some work to do, but they've got plenty of chances coming ahead, especially with that SEC schedule coming up. There's going to be more pressure if they don't get a good win on that SEC schedule, but they've got plenty of opportunities ahead. SEC is very deep, as we've seen here in Feast Week. So, guys, this is an excellent season for you guys to be following along what's happening in SEC basketball. And a good way for you guys to do that, we'd appreciate it if you help us grow this channel by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, drop a comment on what you really liked, what you saw in Feast Week. How did your team do? How did you feel about the result from these games going forward? Just kind of share your thoughts, and we'd really appreciate, like I said, subscribe. Our show's going to be coming out on Sunday as we normally have it scheduled. Ton of fun ahead. We're going to be talking about some really interesting topics, not just game results this week, because these results really spoke itself. Is the SEC the best conference in basketball? I'd like to think so after some of the dominance that we've seen so far. Is Auburn and Alabama, are they both national title contenders this year? Maybe the case. We're going to be talking about all that on Sunday. So, guys, please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.